Hey everyone, please subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. I didn't care, honestly. This vacation would be smoother without me tagging along. My phone screen still held Mom's text when a new notification popped up. My brother sent a picture, my passport poking out from his sweatshirt pocket. Whoops it. My mistake, he wrote, tossing in a laughing emoji, because in our family, cruelty always arrived with a side of humor. I stared at the messages until they blurred into ripples. A $16,000 cruise filled with sparkling ports, endless buffets, and photos I'd be edited out of anyway. The ache in my chest wasn't tears. It was the sound of a lock snapping shut. Hi, I'm Hollis Quinn, 27. People sometimes think silence means agreement. They mix up the girl who stays quiet with the girl who's unable. They don't realize silence is where strategies take root. I typed one word in reply, fine. Then I placed my phone face down, like tucking a pet to sleep, and stood. So carefully, the chair didn't creak. The afternoon glowed warm, ocean bright through the slats of the blinds. Dust floated like unclaimed confetti. My hands moved instinctively, steady the way you act when the solution becomes clear. I stepped to the hall closet and pulled out the small metal toolbox Dad had laughed at when I bought it. What? You gonna fix your emotions, he'd mocked. The screwdriver settled into my hand like a choice. The front door's old deadbolt groaned as I unscrewed the plate, then fastened it back with the new hardware I'd ordered months ago, but never used. Not spite, not vengeance, just a fix. In the kitchen, I scooped the spare keys from the ceramic bowl marked family. I retrieved my teal passport holder from the file cabinet, the one they always poked fun at. Hollis and her little habits. It was empty, of course, the absence sharp like a fresh wound. Instead, I tucked a document envelope into the safe, birth certificate, social security card, the papers you only think of when it's too late. I changed the Wi-Fi password. I reset the garage code. I archived a dozen group chats, leaving the ones where I was just the punchline. Before they returned, I walked the house one last time. Windows secured, balcony door locked, navy curtains pulled against the sunlight. The hour felt fragile, like tissue paper. Outside, the street hummed, someone's radio, a truck grinding gears, a dog barking with sudden conviction. Tires crunched on the driveway. The engine stopped. Footsteps. Voices. A key scraped the lock, then paused. Another try. Harder, followed by a confused chuckle that felt like an apology dressed in cologne. A tide shifted in my chest. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one waiting at the edge of my own story. Tonight, the door decided who belonged. The lock clicked once, twice, then fell silent. Hollis, you locked us out, my brother's voice came through, half laughing, half bewildered. I stood in the hall, barefoot, pulse steady as a drumbeat. Their shadows danced behind the frosted glass, Dad tugging the handle, Mom's bracelets glinting as she waved her hands. For years, I'd been the one outside that glass, watching them clink glasses without me. Tonight, the perspective flipped. Open the door, honey, Mom called, her voice sweet but edged. We're exhausted. It was just a joke. I pressed my forehead to the cool wall. Always a joke. Every slight came wrapped in a chuckle. My forgotten graduation. The birthday candle they'd regifted. You're too sensitive, they'd say, as if that were a defect, not a shield. Dad banged the door. We paid for that cruise. You think you can just... I flicked off the porch light. Darkness swallowed his words. My mind drifted to 3 days ago, when I found my suitcase emptied on the kitchen floor, clothes crumpled, passport missing. My brother had been filming a prank video. Mom laughed, so hard she spilled wine on the boarding passes. Don't make a scene, she'd said. You're ruining the vibe. I hadn't made a scene. I'd watched, waited, planned. Now, from the upstairs window, I saw them drag their luggage back to the car. Mom's voice cut through the night, sharp with anger and disbelief. She's lost her mind. No, I thought. I've just leveled the score. When their taillights vanished, I sank onto the couch, their couch, in my soft robe, the scent of sea salt candles filling the air. Their cruise would sail without them. The tickets still hung on the corkboard. They'd never see the text I'd set to send at midnight, you were right. The trip's better without you. Outside, the porch light flickered back on, as if the house itself had picked my side. Morning broke with the cry of gulls, though the ocean was hours away. Maybe it was just the boarding passes by the window, fluttering in the AC like trapped birds. Their car was gone. So was their patience. At 7:43 a.m., my phone lit up with texts. Mom, this isn't funny. Open the door. Dad, we're calling the police. Eli, my brother. Hope you're happy, psycho. Mom's crying. I poured coffee, hand steady. The machine's hiss drowned their messages. The mug read, family is everything. I'd bought it years ago. Now it felt like a sarcastic joke in ceramic. I didn't reply. Silence spoke louder. Then came the text that made me pause, coffee halfway to my lips. Mom, fine. We're canceling your credit card. Let's see how independent you are. My chest didn't tighten, it lifted. Because last night I'd already redirected my direct deposits, secured my savings, changed every password they'd ever known. For the first time, I was free. I wanted the house, sunlight pooling on the floors. Their photos still sat on the mantel. Smiling faces, matching cruise shirts, a facade of unity. I tilted one frame toward the light. The glass reflected a stranger. I packed the photos into a box, labeled it return to sender. By noon, they were en route to the police station. My phone buzzed with words like trespass and theft, as if a daughter could steal her own home. They'd forgotten the paperwork from months ago, when they'd transferred the deed to me for a tax break. I'd reminded them twice. They'd laughed it off. Now the laughter was mine, soft and surreal, a release long overdue. When the doorbell rang, I didn't startle. A uniformed officer stood there, brow furrowed after hearing my story. He studied the deed in my name, the new locks, then me. I think you're fine to stay, he said gently. For the first time, I believed someone. By evening, the sky turned a bruised silver, that liminal hour when everything feels like a memory. I stood by the window, watching the street lamp flicker, my reflection faint in the glass. Their car hadn't returned, but I knew they'd come. My family didn't lose quietly. At 8:06 p.m., a knock, soft, intentional. I didn't answer. Then another, sharper. Hollis, Mom's voice strained through the door. This is our house. You can't do this to us. To us. As if I'd always been the outsider circling their perfect world. Call her bluff, Dad muttered behind her. Keys clattered on the porch. I pictured him trying each one, the metal scraping, a curse under his breath when none worked. I opened the door halfway, just enough for the porch light to illuminate their faces. They looked older, diminished. I wasn't angry, just clear. You said the trip would be better without me, I said softly. Guess you were right. Mom's eyes darted past me, scanning the hall. You changed the locks. Yes. You can't, I can, I said. And I did. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my brother, arms folded, smirked. You're really losing it, Hollis. It was a joke. I smiled, calm and deliberate. Then this is my comeback. The words landed, light but final. Dad started to speak, then stopped as I handed him an envelope. The deed, their signatures, proof of their oversight. He unfolded it, lips moving silently. Mom whispered, You planned this? No, I said, easing the door shut. You did. Their shadows lingered on the porch, framed by the amber light like ghosts practicing remorse. Then footsteps faded, gravel crunched. Their car engine roared a final insult before vanishing. Inside, the house breathed. The silence wasn't hollow, it was one. In the mirror, I saw myself, not the invisible girl, but someone whole. Someone no longer uninvited. The next morning smelled of rain and faint lemon polish. I woke before dawn, the house wrapped in a delicate post-storm calm. I brewed coffee and sat at the counter, eyeing the faint scratches Dad left on the doorframe years ago. Small, angry marks in the wood. They felt different now, like evidence. My phone overflowed with messages. Mom, you humiliated us. Eli, they're saying you trapped us on purpose. That's crazy. Dad, you'll regret this. Family sticks together. Family, their weaponized word for compliance. I set the phone down and scanned the house they'd built, the walls I'd painted, the kitchen they never touched. My fingerprints were buried beneath their claims. At 9 a.m., The door rattled softly, like an afterthought. Through the curtain, I saw Mom holding a box of pastries, makeup smudged, her crew's curls limp from humidity. She raised the box like a truce flag. I cracked the door an inch. "Honey, we overreacted," she started. "Let's talk." I wanted to believe her, to see the mother from the photos who loved us all the same. But then she added, "If you unlock the Wi-Fi, we'll pretend this never happened." There it was, the bargain. Love dressed as manipulation. I exhaled. "Mom, go home." "Hollis, you're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being heard." Her mouth opened, but no words came. She blinked, lost, as if I'd spoken in code. Then she turned, her shoes tapping unevenly on the pavement, a retreat. Inside, the coffee's aroma deepened. I looked around, not as a captive, not as a daughter pleading to belong, but as the owner of my own peace. Breakfast tasted like freedom. By the third day, the town was buzzing with the Quinn family drama. Neighbors whispered like it was a soap opera, not a history. They stared when I grabbed the mail, but I didn't hide. I waved, smiled, it threw them off. The house was starting to feel mine, not just on paper, but in spirit. I rearranged furniture, took down the family portrait over the fireplace, and hung a painting I bought years ago but never displayed. An ocean at twilight, waves erasing footprints. The silence hummed with something like joy. Then a call, private number, familiar breath. "Hollis," Dad's voice rasped. "We talked to a lawyer. He says we can fight the transfer. You don't know what you're doing. You're making your mother sick." I almost laughed. "Dad, Mom's been sick with control for years. Maybe this is her cure." A pause, then a sigh, more weary than angry. "You're still our daughter." "I am," I said softly. "Just not your doormat anymore." He hung up. The dial tone buzzed like a trapped insect. I opened my laptop to a folder named Legacy. Inside were receipts, years of utility bills in my name, repairs I'd paid for, the notarized deed they'd signed for a tax dodge. I compiled it into a PDF, titled it For the Record, and emailed it to their lawyer. 10 minutes later, Eli texted, "You did it." They're freaking out. I stared at his name, the brother who hid my passport, laughed as I cried, and felt nothing but quiet clarity. Sometimes justice isn't loud or fiery. Sometimes it's a perfectly timed email with flawless attachments. That night, a storm rolled in, real thunder, rattling the shutters. The house glowed in flashes of white, like the universe was washing itself clean. Rain pounded the windows, raw and true. I sat on the couch with a blanket, laptop open to the lawyer's reply. "Your position is secure. They have no legal claim." No legal claim. I read it 100 times, each tasting different, relief, disbelief, then peace. By morning, a rain-soaked note lay under the door, Mom's handwriting bleeding like tears. "Hollis, we didn't mean to hurt you. You've always been distant. We just wanted you closer, to share our laughter. Maybe we got it wrong. Please call." I traced the words, and for a moment, the little girl who craved their love stirred. Then I saw the last line, "We still need the spare keys." Always a transaction. I folded the note, tucked it into a drawer with the others, apologies with strings attached. By noon, the sky cleared. A neighbor dropped off a pie, asking softly, "You okay, sweetheart?" I smiled. Yes, it was true I was more than okay. I was starting. That night, I walked the house with a candle, mimicking Mom's old pre-trip ritual for good energy. But this flame wasn't for protection, it was for endings. I paused at the front door. The candles glowed dancing on the brass knob they'd once gripped in fury. My reflection flickered in the glass, not shattered, just reimagined. I whispered, "Let this house hold me gently." In the golden quiet, it did. Somewhere, they were still trying to rewrite the story. But mine was finished, whole, and didn't need their approval to stand. A week later, the house felt lighter, truer, like it had finally let go of the years it held its breath for them. Morning light poured through the windows, soft and warm, touching boxes I'd labeled past and peace. One to keep, one to let go. The doorbell chimed, gentle. Eli stood there, rain in his hair, shame in his eyes, holding my passport. Found it in my jacket, he said. The joke went too far. I studied him. The brother who mocked, filmed, followed their script. He looked smaller, maybe because guilt shrinks people. You could have apologized sooner, I said. He nodded. I know, but you scared them. Good, I whispered. They finally saw me. He hesitated. They're selling the cruise tickets. Said they'll try again next year without you. I smiled faintly. I already took my trip. I came home, just not to them. He left the passport on the step and walked away. When the gate clicked, I didn't feel victorious, just free. That night, I sat on the porch with a blanket, the wind weaving through the trees. The air that once carried their laughter now held my breath, steady and certain. I flipped through my passport, its blank pages waiting for stamps. It struck me. This wasn't about being left out of their journey. It was about starting mine. The cruise, the family, the endless striving. They were destinations on someone else's map. This house, this quiet, this moment, they were mine. I set the passport on the table, its teal cover catching the moonlight. Somewhere, a ship might be sailing. But here, in my stillness, I'd already landed. When I whispered freedom, the house seemed to whisper it back, like a vow.